So, in the last session, we have seen a few questions on file handling, right? I think we were doing file handling in the last session. Students who were not there, they practiced file handling in the last session. Okay. So, are you facing any challenges in understanding how we are handling files? How are we, creating files? How are we writing the data onto the file? How are we reading the data from the file? Anybody facing any challenges? All right. Okay, let me share my screen. I'll just recapitulate what we have seen. Do you have any such placement examinations today? Oh, it's not there. Okay, I have to be open. Okay, do you have any placement related talk today? Okay, yeah, it opened. So, yes. Okay, so before we move on to, in the last two sessions where students went for the placement talk, we started with file handling because it's a very small topic and it can be covered in just one session also. So in file handling, we have seen how do we read the data from the files by using the read method. Okay, then we saw read lines method. Okay, so the read method can read all data in one go. This method can read the whole file in one go itself. Okay, so then if you want to work on different words on the file, then you have to split it. So if you split this the read data, you can store it in some variable of type list, and this list is going to have the records in terms of words. So that we can do using the split function. You can split the whole read file using the read function. I even told you one more function, read, which can read only 10 characters of data from your input file. So this you have practiced in the last session. You practiced this in the last session where you were reading the data from the file. In the same way you have read, in the same way you also have write. So when you are writing the data, you need to make sure that your file is open in the writable mode. In the sense, you are using here write in order to write the data onto the file. That is one thing to make sure. And another thing is that whenever you are calling the function write and you are writing something onto the file, you need to make sure that you close the file successfully. This was the scenario with JDK also, that whenever we are using the function close, it is going to save the content onto the file successfully. If close function is not written, then the file data may not be saved and you may receive some incorrect output, or maybe the file may not be written at all. That could be the case. So make sure that you are closing the file pointer once the writing of the data is done onto the file. So this is what we have seen in your file reading and writing. So you can read and write any type of file here, but if you want to read and write with Microsoft file, or you have to want to read the write with docx or xls or something, then you can use libraries which are there, predefined libraries, or we are also going to see such libraries, in our future tutorials, in our future sessions, we are going to see when we are going to start the tutorial of or the module, specifically module of your matplotlib, numpy, all those scikit-lab, all these libraries are having individual way of reading the data. So that all we can do when we are when we are reading the data from CH3 or XLS file. It is easy to do it in Python using those libraries. Okay, so we are going to do that at that time, but currently You can easily read and write the data onto a text file using simple read and write operations like this. Okay, so is anybody having any questions so far? Is anybody having any questions in how do we read the data from the file? How do we write the data onto the file? Any questions? Regarding file handling? Okay, so if you are not having questions, then I would like to get back to our original, the previous topic that we started with. What we started with is, yeah, okay, yeah, we started with, yes, inheritance, yeah. So we started with the example of inheritance where we have seen you can create class like this. Okay, we have simply created classes and we saw constructor, how to create function, how to call the constructor. Okay, then what is the method inside a class, how do we create method inside a class, and I've even shown you that wherever you are using class method, we need to pass class as the parameter here because you are referring to the complete class here. But whenever you are using instance, method, you need not to pass anything. You can simply do it simply by using self keyword itself. Okay, so that we have seen. But in inheritance, we can continue with the same example. So in the class, the class currently we are having is related to employee. Okay, so we can create one subclass of the same class. Just to recapitulate inheritance, I am showing you the same. I am going to continue with the same example. Okay, so this is the class that we created in the past session when I was explaining you the instance method and the class method. Now, in the same way, you have this class, which is an independent class right now. If you want to create some subclass of it, you can simply create. Say, for example, the class name is currently employee. No, okay. So let us create a subclass. Say, for example, the subclass name is developer. So I'm creating a class for developer and I want to extend this class from the superclass employee. Okay, so yes, you can extend the superclass here. So developer is going to be your subclass and employee is going to be your superclass. So in employee, we don't have, okay, in employee, we have parameters like first name, last name, and salary. Okay, so say for example, in employee, as a developer, you are passing one more parameter here. One more parameter you want to pass here, and that's dependent on developer only in the sense, yeah, let us take the parameter of, say for example, language that the developer is expert inside, okay, or maybe some programming language that the developer is expert inside. So a developer can definitely have first name, last name, salary, but an add-on to that is it is having its own programming language expertise. In that case, if I want to add, so now this class will be dedicated only for developers. So, and it is the subclass of the superclass employee. So it can definitely use all these, first name, last name, everything it can definitely use. So the constructor that you are using here, you feel like you can copy this constructor here itself in the same way you have done. You can add one more parameter for, say for example, programming language. You feel like you can do like this, okay, and it is okay for us to create the same constructor and pass just one more parameter known as programming language, which whenever you are going to create the object, you are going to pass in the brackets. But as far as developer is concerned, and as far as you are using the superclasses functionality, you don't need to mention this at all. In the sense, you can simply mention that I am calling employee classes init method. Okay, init method, it is not indented. Yeah, okay, I am calling employees classes init method or nothing but the constructor of the employee class, and I am passing these parameters first, last, and salary, in the parameters, and at the same time the self-programming language is going to be the variable of developer only, and you can simply initialize this variable like this. This is also possible. Apart from that, whenever you are calling the superclass functionality, you can also use the super keyword in inheritance. The super keyword refers to the superclasses so and so functionality. Which functionality? Well, currently I want to call superclasses method in it. Okay, you can call it. As long as you are not passing here the class name, you can remove the self parameter here. Whenever you are using the class name, we have to make sure that you are passing the time referring to the current class as the object. So we are passing self over there. It is not mandatory. You can choose to remove the self parameter once you are using the super keyword. It refers to always super classes, whatever functionality you are accepting or passing in the brackets here. So now you have your first name, you have your last name, and you have your salary. And these three parameters are same as what we have used before in your employee class, because developer itself is one type of employee, okay? And you are reusing the super class functionality over here. And if I run it, it is running fine, all right? Now, if I create the first object, say for example, I'm creating developer 1, and I'm using developer's class to create the object. Developer name is Mr. Developer, okay? And his last name is XYZ, and his salary is something, okay? And the language he is comfortable with is, say for example, Python. In the same way, I am creating developer 2. His programming language is, say for example, Java, okay? Some salary he is having, and is another name, developer number 2. So we are creating two objects here. Sorry, I have to create developer number 2. It is overwriting the contents otherwise. Yeah. So if we run this program, we can see that you are having two objects right now. And if I print the dictionary of your first developer, we can see all the functionality of first name, last name, generating the email address from the given name and salary, and all these parameters were initialized using the super keyword. Whenever the call is placed to your super class, meaning your employee class, it is creating the email address accordingly, and it is also allocating the salary accordingly. If I even choose to call first name, say for example, I want to retrieve just the first name of your current developer, of course you can do. You can simply choose developer1.fn, and it can give you your full name of the developer. So what the point I'm trying to convey here is that with inheritance, all the superclass properties can be accessed with your subclass object. It is going to be accessible with the superclass object, of course, but currently I am creating the subclass here, developer, whose objects I am creating, developer and developer 2, and both these objects are capable of retrieving or accessing all the properties of your superclass. In another sense, if I want to check how is this happening, or if I want to check what is the sequence of, or what is the resolution order, or what is the hierarchy of an inheritance, in that case, we have a functionality, we have a function known as MRO. MRO is represented as a method resolution order, and method resolution order means, which means that what is the sequence of an inheritance? How is your constructor getting called? Or how is your functionality of the subclass is inherited from which class? So you can see your developer class is currently inherited from your employee class. And like it is common in all the programming languages, in all the OOP languages, object is always the superclass, no, of all the classes that you create. Any subclass that you create, any class that you create, is going to be always the subclass of the superclass object. That was the same case with JDK also. It is the same case with Python also. So you can choose to see it is the superclass of object. In the sense, the hierarchy of inheritance is, how can we check the hierarchy of inheritance? By the first method, this MRO will give you the method resolution order. MRO stands for method resolution order. It means how are the methods, or how is the object getting created, and who is the superclass of your current class, and how is the hierarchy acting upon. That you can check this by first method to verify whether inheritance is properly been managed or not. Another way to do that is by simply using the help function, okay? You can simply use the help function, and you can pass the name of the class here. It is going to show you everything. See what it will show you. It will show you what all constructor you have in the class. I'm having a parameterized constructor, and this class, what is the MRO of this class? Currently, if the method is present, how are you creating the object? When you create the object, this is your first current class, your superclass, and the superclass of your employee class. So any class that you create is going to be inherited from your object class, first thing. Second thing, what all methods you can inherit from your superclass. So we all have two instance methods. We have seen we have two instance methods. We have first name and we have compute. Both of them are currently inherited in your, with the help of instance, you can call both these methods. And fn we have seen here. See, you can call using the instance of your subclass. You can call your superclass function in the same way. You can even call compute. What all class method you can access? See, class method is having a different section as compared to instance method. What all class methods you can currently access? You can access both the class method. How many methods do we have? See, we have two class method. We have the first class method as setting increment, and we have another class method as creating objects from the string. So yes, you can access both the methods in your subclass. So your help function can give you the complete structure of how is your class working upon, which variables you are inherited from your class. Well, currently I am using the global variable increment. Is it there? Let us check. Have we created any variable known as increment? Yes, we have the increment variable inside the class, and yes, it is accessible in your subclass also. So your MRO or your help function can give you the brief idea of which class currently you are inheriting and which functionality of that class you can currently access. All right. So far, is anybody having any questions? So far. Okay. Okay, I'm not receiving any questions. All right. Okay. So if you're clear with this, I'm going to create one more hierarchy of inheritance. We have employee. Okay. So let us create another level. So we have developer as one of the employee here. Okay. As the class subclass of superclass employee, I'm going to create another class known as typist. Okay, typist is again one of the, okay, let us create manager. Okay, yeah, okay, so manager is again one of the type of employee itself. No, so I'm going to create the class manager, which is going to be the subclass of your superclass employee. So what all features this manager can have, or what is the functionality of the manager class? Well, manager class can check who all or which all employees are going to be is part, in the sense manager 1 is having 5 employees, manager 2 is having 5 employees, means how many developers are currently under manager 1, how many developers are currently under manager 2, and manager is capable of choosing his own team, in the sense manager can delete employee, manager can add employee. All those features are going to be, say for example, a part of your manager class. In that case, we will definitely need a constructor to initialize properties. What properties do you think a manager should have? So manager can definitely have first name. Okay, name is going to be the same. He can have first name, he can have last name, he can have salary. Okay, and he can have list of employees inside which are working inside this manager. Okay, say for example, this manager is guiding the team of Python developers. Then all the developers of Python category should be inside this manager. Inside the class manager, you can declare, and the manager can choose to hire or fire any developer he or she chooses to. Okay, so if I am so what we can do, we can create an array, or we can create a list of all the employees which are going to be part of this manager. Okay, so we can create a list of employees which manager chooses to take on his team. So we can create a constructor in such a way that it is using, you are calling the same functionality. Okay, I'm repeating the functionality here again. I can choose the same constructor. Okay, I am currently choosing the same constructor here inside your class manager. He can have first name, he can have last name, he can have salary. But say for example, the last parameter is the employees he can choose to be inside his team. Okay, and the employees which manager chooses. So we are going to add a few functionality here known as, he can hire employee. So we can say hire employee, or we can say add employee. Okay, add employee, we can have remove employee. So manager has these rights. So these rights are going to be very specific to the manager only. It is not dependent on any of the other properties. Okay, he can choose to take a developer inside his team. He can choose to remove the developer from his team. So with the super keyword, I'm initializing the super classes property. So your employee class is getting initialized, or this module is getting called as soon as I am calling the constructor of manager class, which is of this parameterized one. And say, for example, initially there are no employees inside the manager category. So I'm putting it as none. None in the sense there are no employees currently, but as and when the manager chooses to add the employee, he can add. How? Let us try to add employee in the sense, if if there is no employee here, no, then you can create a list here. If whenever you are creating the constructor and you are not passing any employee, you can create a list of employees. Otherwise, whatever employees you are passing here now is going to be initialized with the self.employees, because these are local parameters. I am going to use something known as self.employees to initialize with these employees local variable, right? Now, if there are no, it will replace. If you do like this, it will replace automatically, right? In the sense, if there is no employee, in the sense, if employees, this value is currently passed as none. In that case, what you can do, if there are no employees, okay, then you can simply create, a blank list. Let us simply create a blank list if there are no employees inside the manager. Nobody is passing any parameter over here. It means it is none. In that case, create a fresh list. If employees do exist, then simply initialize your employees classes variable with whatever user is passing here in terms of parameters. So either you can, if there is no employee passed over here, it means manager is going to later on add his or her employees inside his category. In that case, we are simply creating a blank list. Otherwise, whatever is getting passed here, no, simply assign it to the local variable of the class, which is employees. And this is your constructor. Okay, we are done with the constructor. Now, if we check the functionality, what a manager can do. Well, like we said, we discussed, we can have add employee. Okay, let us create a function for adding the employee. Okay, what do you think it will have? It will have the employee name, which the manager wants to add in his category. So some name we are going to pass, some employee detail we are going to pass here, okay? And if this employee is already there in the employees list, we don't need to add it again, okay? We cannot re-add the employee again and again, right? So what we are doing, if the employee is not present, not is, already know this operator, if it is not there in your classes employees list, if it is not there, then only add. How do we add? With the list, we have the method of append. Okay, so we are appending this EMP onto your list. If the employee that you wish to currently add is not present in your list, then you are adding it. In the case when you want to remove the employee, when manager wants to choose his team with a different team of employees, now he can choose to remove the employee also. In that case, how are we working? If the employee is already there, then we are removing it. So if the employee is present in your current employee list, then you are currently removing that employee that you are currently choosing to. You can remove which employee? This employee. So if that employee is already present in your team, you may want to hire a new team. Okay, so you are simply removing that employee. And you can simply print here itself. We can print the list of employees as soon as we are done removing and adding the employees, or we can even choose to create a whole separate function specifically located for simply designated for simply printing all the employees in such a way that for your employee in your employees list, right? Yeah, you can simply choose to iterate it over the list and you can print. So whatever is the employee which is there in your currently, which is you are choosing to be in your team, you can choose to print their first name, or you can choose to print their last name, or you can choose to simply call the function fn and retrieve their full name. So it depends on you. How are you currently working with? So you can even choose to print their email address. You can simply put email. Okay, it is going to retrieve only the email address of that employee, or in other words, you can simply choose to call the superclass function fn on your current object, wherein you can retrieve the full name of your employee. Okay, it is not in yeah. Yes. Okay. So this manager class is currently doing what? Hierarchy is what? You are having employee as the superclass, and we have two subclasses, developer and manager. And manager can choose which all developers can be in my team currently. So to create, or to have a manager, we need to first create the object. I am creating the first object. Say for example, manager one. Okay, we are creating the first object whose name is Mr. Manager. Okay, and say for example, this is my first manager. I am making the surname as first. He is having some salary, and say for example, now you see, whenever you are not passing any employee list over here, it is creating an empty list. If you are passing some employee list, say for example, by default, it wants developer one to be inside it. In the sense, we already have created developer one here, right? Okay. So your manager wants your developer one to be his first and foremost employee. Can it do like this? Of course it can do. If we check the dictionary of manager, we can see, yeah, the spelling is incorrect. Yeah. So we can see it is having already one employee. It is having the employee of type developer listed under the employees category. Now, if you choose, the manager can simply remove the employee, he can add the employee, or he can simply choose to manager underscore one. Say, for example, we are calling the print employee function. And you see, it is printing, it is having the employee first name here. It is having only one employee, developer XYZ. If the manager chooses to add some employee, which employee you want to add? The function for adding was add employee. No, okay. So let us add employee. What it will take? It will take something of type employee. Okay. So let us pass some object of type developer number 2. So you want this manager one to have 2 employees inside his category. So yes, it is having both the employees inside his category. And if it chooses to remove, say for example, manager one dot remove EMP, he chooses to remove developer one, then of course he can remove. Now if we try to print, it is only going to have, okay, we must have done some problem in the remove employee. Okay, so it is a self dot employees dot remove. Yeah, okay, it is correct. Let me check. Employees, okay. If EMP is remove EMP. If it is it will be in. Sorry, I didn't. It should be in. Is used whenever you want to check whether it is a substring or not, whether this string is present, some character is present in that or not. Then we use is. In is used whether you want to check whether the list is having that value or not. So yeah. Now if we try to remove the employee and if we try to print the employee, yes, it can definitely. Yeah, actually we are adding, we are removing at the same time. Okay, yeah. So we are removing the developer one. So that employee is currently removed from your list. So that way you can create another separate class simply dedicated for the functionality of manager. And you already have the class for developer, which is already calling the superclass constructors, the parameterized constructor. So what all manager class can access? You can simply choose to print help and check the resolution order of manager class. It is having these constructors. It is having own class, superclass, and superclass. And what all functionalities it can access. What all functionalities which is inherited from the superclass. First name and compute. If I am inheriting the first name and compute, I can simply call I used first name over here because it is a superclass. No, employee is a superclass. You can simply choose to access its property in the subclass simply by using the name, function name. In the same way, I can use compute also. In the same way you have done with first name, in the same way you can work with compute also. In the same way, these methods also get inherited in your subclass, which are the class method of your superclass employee. So, and even the increment attribute which is already there in your as a global variable in your superclass can be definitely accessed in your subclass. Okay, so we have seen how do we create the level of inheritance in Python. Okay, and we have seen how which properties can we access, how to check the resolution order of the or the sequence of execution when it comes to inheritance. We have seen how can we access instance method, how can we access the classes method in your inheritance. Any questions is anybody having so far? I formulated one example because in one example itself, I can explain you everything. Within just employee example, within just one class of employee, I can go to any level. We can create a few more subclasses also, and we can, we have a library kind of thing of employee, which can be, used for other functionalities. You can add and, delete as and when you want. So it is easy that if I create one library class, it will be easy for you, formulate at the end of the semester. So is anybody having any questions now? In inheritance, how do we create subclasses? How do we access the methods of superclass? What is the class method? What is instance method? How to access them? Any questions do you have? Nobody's asking anything today. Why? What happened? You are all busy with some company thing, placement thing? All right. Okay, no worries. So another thing, one of the small thing that I would like to discuss is you already have done this in JDK also. The function is instance. Instance. Okay. When it comes to inheritance, is instance is a function that can check is your current object. Let us take the example of the object manager one. Okay. It can check whether your current object is the instance or the object of class manager or not. If it is there, then it is going to print true. Now, if I apply the same function, if we call the same function, but now on the employee class, it is also returning true. Why? Because as your manager is the subclass of your superclass employee, all the object of manager class are also the part of your superclass employee. So yes, your manager one can access all the properties of employee superclass, and hence, yes, it is also the instance of your superclass employee. But now if you think about developer, developer is falling in a different hierarchy. So it is going to return false because your superclass employee is having two subclasses, developer and manager. And developer and manager are not related to each other. So the instance is having a different hierarchy. So the instance, it is returning false. In the same case, you have is instance. You also have a method known as is subclass. So what is the use of is subclass? It checks whether the current class that you are checking, is it the subclass of the superclass? Yes, developer is the subclass of employee. So it returns true. If we check the same thing now for, say for example, manager and employee. Yes, manager is the subclass of employee, so it is returning true. But now if we check the same thing for manager and developer, they are not connected with each other, okay? They are having a different hierarchy. Then it is going to return here false. Is developer a subclass of manager? No, it is false. Even if you do vice versa, it is going to be false. If you do vice versa here, if you try employee here is employee and you are trying developer here, false. Why? Because employee is not the superclass of developer, but developer is the superclass of employee. So you have these ease methods to check whether your current class is subclass of which class, yes or no, or whether it is an instance of which class, yes or no. This you can use in inheritance to check the property which class is falling inside your current class's property. You can check by using is instance or is a subclass. These two are the functions used for checking whether the current object is belonging to which of the class in your hierarchy and which class is under which class in your hierarchy. Yes. Anybody having any questions so far? Okay. So if you are not having any questions, I am giving you one small question to work upon. Okay. Yeah. Let me share my screen for the question. This question is related to your file handling topic. Uh, okay. So in file handling, you have done a few questions. I am showing you the next question that you have to do in your, yeah, this function you can do. This function is very easy. So, or this program is very easy. The program on file handling that you need to do is you need to write a function in Python to count and display the number of words in the file. So just use the read function, split the read function. Okay, you can use the file read function. You can use the split function to split the data, and you can count the words, or you can simply find the length of the list that you are, generating when you split the read function. Now, if you are reading the data, whenever you are using the split function and you are splitting the data, it is going to return the list. You can simply print the length of that list. Even that will give you the number of words present in your file. So let us try this question. If you are facing any challenges, do let me know. I will help you out. Yes, if you are not having any queries, you are good to go. You can leave the session, no worries. If you are having any queries, please stay. Otherwise, you can mention your numbers in the chat box and leave the session.
Ma'am, can I share my screen?
Yes, yes, Udit.
Is it visible?
Yes, yes.
Ma'am, still that error is come.
Uh-huh. Okay. Uh, are you reading a text file? No,
Yes, ma'am.
no, it is a document file, DOC. Try text.
મેમ
Yeah.
મેડમ ટેક્સ્ટ ફાઇલમાં તો થઈ જશે પણ મારે ડોક્યુમેન્ટમાં કરાવું ને એમાં જ વાંધો આવે.
Okay, so for document, I told you, you need to use library for that. I told you, yesterday.
મેડમ લાઇબ્રેરી પર કરી પણ નહોતું થતું.
Okay, which library you have used?
ઇમ્પોર્ટ ડોક્સ.
Okay, did you download the library also?
યસ.
Import? Yeah, right. Import docs. Okay, now the function for that is not read. See, if you want to read a text file, a document file, okay, for docs library, the function will be different. No, it will not be always read.
ઓકે
Got it?
મેમ.
Yeah.
ઓકે
So now
નો
what you need to do? You need to check what function is there in your docs library which can help you read the file. What
ઓકે
is the
મેમ.
function name? Got it?
યસ મેમ, ગોટ ઇટ.
Yes, yes, yes.
થેન્ક યુ.
Yeah, yeah.